Welcome to Healers Talk Healing, the podcast where we gather to explore the art and science of holistic healing, uncovering the secrets to a happier, healthier you. I'm your host, Nina Ganguly, and together we will delve into the intriguing world of holistic healing, delving into the mind-body connection, ancient wisdom, and natural remedies. Get ready for enlightening stories, thought-provoking expert interviews, and practical tips that will empower you to unlock your true potential and embrace a vibrant, balanced life. Whether you're an experienced wellness enthusiast or simply curious about the power of healing, join us on this exhilarating journey as we share the wisdom and insights that can truly transform your life. It's time to embark on a voyage towards a happier, healthier you. So, without further ado, let's dive into the captivating world of Healers Talk Healing. On this episode, I speak with Chris Pizzarello. Chris, a dedicated healer with a rich background in the sciences and a profound journey into holistic healing. With a solid foundation in biology and chemistry from Hunter College, CUNY, and extensive studies in mathematics, physics, psychology, and philosophy, Chris's academic journey set the stage for his remarkable career. Originally a clinical laboratory scientist with over 2 decades of experience, Chris's path took a transformative turn when he discovered the limitations of traditional health metrics in capturing the essence of human well-being. Driven by a passion to foster deep healing, Chris embraced the emotional freedom technique, otherwise known as EFT, a decision that not only revolutionized his approach to wellness, but also his own life. His exploration into healing modalities didn't stop there. Chris furthered his expertise by studying hypnotherapy at the esteemed Hypnosis Motivation Institute, earning recognition as a certified hypnotherapist and securing membership in the American Hypnosis Association. With additional certifications as an advanced master practitioner in NLP or neuro-linguistic programming and a certified master trainer in pain control, Chris utilizes a complete mind therapy approach combining EFT, hypnotherapy, and NLP to guide his clients towards a more empowered and joyful existence. Join us as Chris shares his insights from his journey of healing and transformation, offering invaluable wisdom for both healers and those seeking healing. Oh, wow. I'm so excited. I am super, super stoked to have this conversation with Chris Pizzarello. I'm looking at your name. Otherwise, I would have never been able to say it off the top of my head.
And you said it perfectly.
Well, thank you. I see pizza in there, so I'm like, I think I'm hungry now.
A lot of people say that. That's the way I teach people how to spell my name. It's like you spell pizza and then RELLO. So it's kind of, and everybody chuckles. Pizza. And then some people, what they do is they put PRELLO. It's like, what happened to the pizza?
Trust me, I know my last name is a doozy for some people too. But I just, for the listeners, we've already started conversation. Everybody knows I do this. I always do a preamble before I hit record, and it's been so wonderful. And I'm excited for the listeners to kind of step into what we've created so far. And of course, I always ask every guest, what is your definition of healing?
Well, healing is an internal thing.
Hmm.
And there's different levels of it. But really, healing for me is your connection with not only your body and your mind, but your higher soul.
Mm.
When you put yourself in alignment with all those parts, that's where real healing happens. And that's what healing is.
Mm. That's a very powerful message. And I think what's important for us to realize that it's a holistic approach. There's not, you just heal a part of you. There's this interconnectedness that I think in the world of healing, and people those are looking for healing are beginning to understand that it's not you're just going to go and see a therapist, or you're just going to do one approach. There's so many approaches to for healing, and I think I'd love to hear your journey of where you've come from and what approaches you use that you feel will provide that space of healing, that definition of healing that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, when I was in my early 40s, and my wife and I had just had a baby, and I'll be frank, I was struggling.
Mm,
I was not happy. I wasn't happy. I was dissatisfied with the direction of my life. I was dissatisfied with things that was doing. I didn't have the light that I needed to have. I had no solutions.
mm,
I couldn't figure it out. And I joined a group of people who were creating a mastermind.
okay.
And I really was getting it. I was really empowered by it. I was really blessed. The person who was running our local chapter, I will say, he was a very energetic, powerful man. And he really encouraged us to really get involved. One of the things we all did was we listened to this audio series, and it was talking about how to grow your business and
Mhm.
how to align yourself. It was a lot of things about mindset in there. I caught something that no one else caught in the group.
Mm,
I'm listening and I hear, when I'm out of alignment, I go see Gary Craig, and he uses EFT on me to get me back in alignment. My
mm.
radar went right up. The antenna went straight up. What? Who? What's that? I have to know that right now. This is what is going to get me into alignment. And so I looked up who Gary Craig is, and he has his freebies. And I went and I did his freebies. I found out that he's taught by Roger Callahan. I read Callahan's book. I loved Callahan's book, but there was a level of complexity to it that was like a little disconcerting. Not
Mhm.
because he didn't have good techniques, it just wasn't user friendly.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I this was right at the time when Gary had a small heart attack,
Mm,
and he was starting to step back. And he stepped forward again now, but he stepped back for a while. And so his whole catalog went on sale. And with trepidation and, am I doing the right thing? Am I wasting my money kind of mindset,
now,
which was
nobody
going,
else in the world has that.
yeah, and looking back, I had to be so distorted that I even had that mindset.
Mhm.
I bought the whole entire package, all the videos. I forgot how many CDs. I think it's like 20 CDs. Hours and hours and hours and hours of workshops, and watched every single one of them. Absorbed every single thing,
Mm,
and did as they're doing the tapping, I'm tapping along. And even though it wasn't directed for me, it did the work, because
that's
I would
powerful.
there, and there's a lot of times, when I'm working with people, when they're not able to tune in, I can surrogate tap for them.
Mm,
You
that's
know, I
interesting.
if I can tune into their energy and I can find where their weakness is, I can tap for them, and do the work that way. I don't do it often because really the people have to do their own work. But
Mhm.
sometimes when they're in a panic zone, they're in the middle of a panic attack, you need to get them to a place where they can go from, out of control. I can't control my body. I can't control my breathing, to a point where they can start coming back into that rational thinking conscious brain. And then we can start doing some work that's going to work. So sometimes I have to tap for people surrogately, but that's not the only thing I do. But here I am, I'm talking about modalities. I really shouldn't be talking about modalities. I should be talking about healing.
Well, you use the modalities for the healing, of course, right?
Yeah,
And
no,
that's,
it's very true.
and the listeners want to know that not everybody is in our world where we know what we're talking about. So for instance, you're talking about EFT and tapping. Why don't you say more about that?
I will. So EFT is emotional freedom technique. That's what it stands for. It's an offshoot of thought field therapy technique. The concept is that if we can focus on our thoughts, something that we don't want in our life anymore, we put our focus on it, and we kind of, I liken it to creating a mist.
Hmm.
Something like that's right here. That's like you can almost see it.
Okay.
You definitely can feel it if you get tuned in. And what we want to do with that is we're using specific energy points on the body
Hmm.
to peel back and find where that root cause is, the inside of the onion. You can think of the analogy peeling back the layers
Yep.
of the onion and getting to the inside and finding, hey, and when you get to that spot, obviously thing collapses. All the things that you were holding on to, that you were defining yourself as, that were no longer serving you. Key, no longer serving you. We're not
Mm,
trying to. We're not trying to create a robot. We're
right.
helping you to find that person that you really think you are, not that person who's affected by these things that no longer serve you. So that's the way that the tapping works, and it's so simple that you could teach it to school children, and I've taught it to school children.
Mm,
I've gone into schools a couple of times. I really want to pursue that more and just teach them a very, very simple version, but enough power that the children can let go of their anxiety. This is a thing that's very tough in children's lives. If you go back to when you were a child
mhm.
and when you were in grade school, and you got the obviously the interaction with your fellow students, the authoritarian figure of the teacher, and under pressure for you to perform, and you have no tools.
Yeah.
You have no tools. So everything just becomes like a sponge goes in. If somebody yells at you, well, that must be the truth because I have no way of filtering out whether that is or not. If the teacher gets angry at you, oh well, teacher is mean and nasty all the time. And then if you do badly on one test, oh, I must be unable to perform on tests and some other things that I'm not going to say because I'm not in alignment with that. But
Right.
you know what I mean? If you what they've proved over time, and really powerful, is that any student taking a test and they are in a calm, relaxed state will have a marked improvement on their test taking abilities.
Yeah, I just like, let's pause for 1 second and let people take that in. Like, because my daughter has test anxiety, and I have to like have a little conversation with her before she goes into some big test. Not all of them. It's when they're like they're worth like 30 or 40% of her mark. That's when
Hmm.
it's like, oh my gosh. And I think it's important because I know for me, I knew over time, I knew I learned how to study. I learned what test works for me. So I would always choose classes that had multiple choice because I was like, okay, all I need is something to trigger me, to remind me where the answers are. But for those people who are in the space when you are anxious and you're concerned and you're worried, you're right. There's no space for thought. It's like when you're on a game show and as an audience member, you're sitting and going, no, this is the answer. And the person's up there feeling the pressure. And so it really truly is important for our young ones to have these skills because they're being tested until they're like 20 if they're going to
Oh, they get
go.
they get tested and judged
Mm-hmm.
so harshly. They don't even see it, and you really don't understand it until you get into a parent's perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
when you see what the teachers are making judgments on, I mean, they make judgments on your child in the second week of school, and they're making these judgments that this is the way they're going to be interacting with your child the rest of the year. And if maybe your child was sick that day, they didn't sleep well, they didn't eat well, they had some kind of disagreement with their friend. Now they're not in a good space to take that test or quiz or whatever it is. And when the children have these skills when they're young and they pull them forward to adulthood, we're creating better adults.
Mm.
And that's really what the world needs. We need better adults. But you don't
Yeah, we
create
do.
better adults for the most part from adults. You have to create it from the children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm very passionate about this.
No, I
But
get that because I think the same thing. I'm like, okay, so where do we start? Where do we begin to break the generational patterns of education or the way we think in a family or in a culture or in a society? You have to start with the minds that are more open.
agreed 100%. And it's really, really important that we get the skills to the adults and the adults pass the skills on to the children.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can do that, the power of our minds is limitless.
Hmm. Uh, Usually I'm not speechless, but it's the truth. I'm taking it in. I am taking it in because I've seen there are some countries, I think in Asia, where they have mindfulness before school starts. They start the
Hmm.
day off with the mindfulness practices. Some schools I've seen, like for children who are more kinesthetic and more movement, they have classrooms and desks where they can cycle and they can jump up and down and they can do what they need to do in order to, you know, support their learning. And when we give them those supports, whether it's tapping, and a good friend of mine does tapping as well, and I myself have experienced it. One session had me begin to see the image that I had of my own body completely
Mm.
differently. I was like, wow, this is the first time I'm not trying to look at my body like I was 20, you know?
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
get stuck in these patterns and you don't even realize that.
it's so true. And what I learned that had me go to another level
Hmm.
was when I had one client who kept we would do a session, and for 2 days she would be good, and then she would just go right back, reset, go back, reset, go back. And the problem was it wasn't stuck in her place where we can access. We had to get into the subconscious mind and work
Mm,
on that. And going back to what the children are experiencing when they're in that anxiety state, their thinking mind gets shut off. So they're thinking with limited capacity at that point. It's more what's reflexive. And
mhm.
this is what happens with a lot of people when they start making improvement and they go backwards. They go back into that reflexive, steady state where they were before. So, and we don't even realize how much power and how much of our patterns are built into our subconscious mind.
Mm.
I bring about adages. Like you once you learn to ride a bike, you never forget. You get on a bike 20 years from now, and 3 pedals in, you remember.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I do.
or you drive your car and you don't even know how you got home.
Yeah, that never happens.
Never. Or you're driving and you know 5 days out of the week you go right. Today you're supposed to go left, but you still go right
Yeah,
because you're in that
recently I just
automatic
moved.
mode.
So
Yeah.
I get it. It's like I'm still getting off of the same exit. So it's just I've moved a couple of blocks from where I was. And for the first 3 weeks, I had to stop and like, where am I going? Yeah. Just turn around and go somewhere else.
Yeah, you
It's
had to
so
break make
true.
a new you got to make a new pattern.
Join the Miracles Directory where healers connect and wellness begins. Join a community of trusted holistic professionals or find your path to healing and peace. Visit themiraclesdirectory.com. Start your journey today. Yeah.
And being able to access into the subconscious mind, being able to rewrite those scripts, being able to help people to understand that, hey, this is just a pre-program that you programmed when, in a lot of times when you were 4, 5, 6 years old. And you're not 4, 5, or 6 years old, you're now 20, 30, 40, etc. I've worked with somebody who was over 90.
Mm-hmm. I want you to say that again because like healing is not age specific.
Oh, absolutely. You heal throughout your life. If you go on that journey, you heal throughout your life. You spend your life figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And I worked with a woman, and she was in England, and she was deathly afraid of dogs. Her sister had 2 dogs, so she couldn't go see her sister when she lived near a park. Every time she would go walking in the park and she saw a dog coming, she had to either go on a different path or cross the street. She was so afraid of dogs. Where did it come from? It was something that she created when she was a little girl. She was about 4 years old when she created that story. That dogs are bad, dogs attack, dogs bite, and I'm afraid of dogs. So after rewriting that script, she stopped crossing the street. She stopped. Now, she didn't feel comfortable when a large dog was coming towards her, but she understood the owner had control, and if the owner didn't have control of the dog, okay, it's appropriate that you cross the street and get out of the path.
Anybody would do that, even a dog lover.
That's right. That's right. But if that person has control of their dog, okay, you might want to stop and let them pass, but it's okay. And she got to that point, and then she got to the point where she could go visit her sister. And
That's life changing, right?
Absolutely. When you have someone in your family you love, and there's a reason why you can't go there. They have a dog. They live in a different city, and you have to drive across a bridge, and you can't. And the anxiety of you driving over the bridge is too much. You're afraid to fly to go visit your family. These are life-changing things when you can get past those obstacles and rewrite the script. But I always say the script is not only written in the subconscious, it's rewritten in the conscious mind.
So tell me, you're talking about rewriting, creating new patterns. How do you do that with your clients?
Well, first I determine through talking with them and getting to know them and understanding where this started. And sometimes I don't even know where it started. But and it's for my experience, it's not about going backwards in a timeline therapy to erase what happens. It's more about using your adult self to come to a realization and give grace to the child that you were.
Mm.
You know, come to peace with that child and let that child have your acceptance that everything's okay, even though they felt that way. And
Yeah.
to me, that works so much more powerfully than trying to go back. Well, you're going to see that in a whole different light because we went back and we had you stand inside of that experience. And that can be a place that someone doesn't want to go, especially if it was physical abuse.
Hmm.
Do you want to go back to that physical abuse? No,
No, I
even
totally get that because, I myself have experienced abuse and there's things I don't remember. And when I was writing um, my book and sharing my story, I, I thought to myself, is it necessary to know? Like, I thought maybe I need to go back and I need to like experience all that and close it off and be able to tell the story or of healing. But I agree with you, Chris. It's not necessary to actually have to go back. But what does work is accepting that what was.
yeah, exactly. It's a misnomer that has been brought forward from a different era,
Hmm.
that we have to go back and we have to blame everything on our parents, and we have to confront our abusers and this kind of thing. And I I don't see where that's going to be more positive than you creating a more positive self in the now and living in the now and not letting that past define your future. Because what most people do to them. When I'm working with them, I find that they're using their past experience to try to define their future. So they leave no space for the future to become.
Hmm.
And when they come into the now the future has all possibility.
I'll let you speak in my language. It's so it we always put our past in our future because we're living from whatever our lived experience has been. From that, when we are in survival mode, we're looking left and right. Is a car going to come? Well, our primitive brain thinks saber-toothed tigers are coming, but they're not. And
Hmm.
the brain does what it does. And we could talk about that a whole bunch too, but let's just not do that. But the brain does what the brain
Oh,
does.
I think we could sit there for another hour
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah, it's another conversation we can have. Why not? But I think it's true. We struggle with the fact that the past couldn't be different. I mean, I know this. I've done it myself. That's what keeps us in this victim survivorhood mentality. It's like you want something to change that is like, first of all, no longer exists, and secondly, cannot be changed.
Mhm.
It's a struggle,
It's so true.
right? The struggle is real.
Oh, and it's the most difficult struggle in the fact that we're storing when we have these kind of energetic things that happen to us, we store it in the only place we can't store it in our brain. The brain, we think that the brain has this unlimited capacity, and the truth is, it has a very limited capacity. We have the unlimited ability to think and learn and grow,
Hmm.
but as far as storing things, that energy that doesn't match us, we have no place to put that in our brain. So we put it the only place we can, our body.
Hmm.
So we, with the energy that we are holding on to, that story that we say is ours, and we hold on to so desperately and so tightly that we don't want to let it go because we feel it's our defining moment in our life,
Mm-hmm.
is what's harming us in our body and is bringing us out of alignment with our higher self.
Yeah. This is.
So we find, and you find it a lot of times, when people have mysterious pains, like I
Mm-hmm.
have a pain in my hip, I have a pain in my shoulder, I have a pain in my knee, I have a back pain, and people will go to extremes with this. They will unwittingly hurt themselves with their pain. I'll tell the story that I was doing a workshop, and I said, well, this is what EFT is, and this is how it works. Let's have a demonstration. Anybody have anything that's going on that they want to work on? So this man comes up and he says, "Look, I'm I'm in the trades. So I do general contracting. So I'm hauling bricks, I'm doing roofing, I'm moving wood, and I can't. My right shoulder just does not go up anymore, and it's in pain all the time." I said, "Okay, great. Let's work on this." So we work on this for literally 10 minutes. And as soon as the tear comes out of each side of his eyes, the arm goes straight up and there's no pain. And everything's released. And I know this man now for since 2009. And every time I see him, he tells me the same thing. My shoulder is still good. You fixed me. That was 10 minutes.
I want the listeners to get that, right? 10 minutes of
In,
willingness.
in front of 150 people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was vulnerable. He let himself be, and he let his underside show. But it shows that what he was holding on to was not the physical pain. The physical pain was just a manifestation of the things that were in distress in his life.
And
That
how
were
long was he holding on to that for? Like that, in
he'd
10
been
minutes, you changed his life. But how long was
and
he carrying that?
well, he said it'd been like 3 years since he had lifted his shoulder, and it had been degenerating for 5 years prior to that.
Wow. Wow. Louise Hay has a book called You Can Heal Your Life. And
Mm-hmm.
in that book, I don't know if you've read it, but in the book, they have all of if you have knee pain, if you have elbow pain, if you have this pain, that pain that's associated with that, she does affirmations, which is a little bit in EFT, you do some affirmations
Mm-hmm.
and thinking and
Well,
saying
there's
things.
there's all kinds of different energies that
Yeah.
work. We know this. It's not one modality. It's what is going to work for that person.
Mm-hmm,
So what
exactly.
I would say is what I do might not work for Sue, but it might work for Billy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Sue wasn't in alignment with that type of therapy, and
Mm-hmm.
Billy was, and that's really the difference.
And that's
You,
just to let people know we're not for, like, Chris, you're not for everyone, and everyone's not
yes.
for you.
Oh, that's so true. I say that all the time, and I've gotten very, very, very picky about the people that I want to work with, because working with somebody who's not in alignment or is not showing up is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
I liken it to this. There's a kid taking piano lessons, right? He shows up for his first piano lesson. The teacher teaches him chopsticks. Okay. He goes home. He doesn't do any work. He comes back. The teacher says, "Well, how are you doing?" And okay, we'll go back to lesson one, doing chopstick. He goes back home again. He practices for half an hour. He shows up for his third lesson. He has a little bit of improvement. Still can't do the task. Moving up a little bit. So if you don't do the work, I'm not I'm not a magician. I can do and I liken it this way. I could
Yeah.
do magical things if you do the work.
Amen. I am saying that as a co-healer beside you, which is you have to do the work. There's got to be a willingness to do the thing that's uncomfortable. There's been so many times that you have someone come into your office or onto the screen and they're like, yeah, this is what I need. Fix me. Well, first of all, I don't fix people. So
Yeah.
it's not what we do. I mean, we use the word fix. We don't fix people. And I say this a lot of the time. It's like, I really actually don't do much of anything, but I give you space and I
That's
show you
true.
a tool, and it's up to you to use the tool, and it's up to you to take on the space.
Yeah, I liken it to the other saying. When you're looking for a teacher, one will present themselves to you. So, okay, I'm teaching, but I'm teaching you. I'm not doing the learning, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the most powerful learning. It's the learning about who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I say this all the time. Life is an inside job. There's nobody else. You are the you in your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I really get on some of my clients when I tell them, when they start going on and they tell me about, well, this one and this one and that one, whose life are you living? What body are you living in? Is anybody else there in your body? If there is somebody else there, I want to know about it.
Exactly. That might be a
But
whole different level of
yeah,
healing and therapy
but
required.
I'm being very tongue in cheek when I
Mm-hmm.
say that. It's not your husband's that's in your body. It's not your son or daughter. It's not your father or mother. It's not your friend, or you're the one who's determining your life, and you get to choose. Do you want to choose what's best, or do you want to stay stuck?
Yeah.
Do you want to stay stuck? It's the biggest question, Nina, that we as healers have to ask the people we work with, that they have to make the choice. I mean, obviously they showed up. They showed up,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they put up some money, and hopefully that's enough money to motivate them to show up. But sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not. I've had that experience also, where again, like you said, but snap your fingers and everything's going to be better. That doesn't work that way. I wish I could wiggle my nose like Samantha the witch. And
For our listeners
everything.
who don't know that reference, Bewitched, go check it out.
Yes, yeah, go check it out. Or I could be Genie. Ding.
Yep. We are definitely showing our age, Chris.
Well, yeah, but those are classics. I'm
There
sorry.
are
Those are
definitely classes. And
those,
it's been such a joy connecting with you. This is so amazing. For those people who are interested in having a further conversation with you, aside from the Miracles Directory, how can we get in touch with you?
well, you can find me on my website, which is EFT hypnotherapy.com. Again, that's EFT hypnotherapy at no .com.
And I know
Okay.
you're on Instagram because I've
Yes,
seen you.
I'm on Instagram. Yes, and you can also reach me at 201-203-4756. That's my phone. And like I tell everybody, if I don't answer, don't think that I'm avoiding you. I'm probably with the client.
Yes, remember that. It's in our world of instant gratification. Chris is
Yeah,
out there doing the work, helping people do the work. So leave a
right. So
message.
I'll leave a message. I will call you back.
Oh,
And the thing that and we'll have a conversation. We'll make that conversation. We'll have a conversation, and then we'll figure out what is it that's going to work for you. And this is what I've told people, and I use as a guideline for me, is if I'm not the right person. And there's times that I'm not the right person.
Mhm.
I will give you some other names. I'll tell you, hey, you can find this one, you can find this one, you can find this one, and you can check them out and see if they are the right person for you. There are people out there, and like Nina said, if you go to Miracles Directory, there are other people there.
Mhm.
And the way I view it is I'm not in competition with those people. There's no competition here. We're all playing for the same side, making the planet and the people of this planet be the person they're supposed to be in alignment with their body, their mind, and their soul.
Well, that's a mic drop, and I think it's the best place to say thank you so much for your time. We probably will have to have another conversation because why not? It's so much fun.
Yes,
Somewhere
absolutely.
along the road, we'll talk about some other profound stuff. So thank you once again and take care. Thank you for joining us today on Healers Talk Healing. We hope you've been inspired and empowered on your holistic healing journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode and want to continue learning and growing with us, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, and review our podcast. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, healing is a lifelong journey, and you have the power to transform your life in profound ways. Stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop believing in your own capacity for healing.